2012, Christopher Nolan finished his Batman trilogy with The Dark Knight Rises, and that meant when it came to superheroes, Warner Brothers had nothing. Batman had been a huge hit, but attempts to make something else out of other DC superheroes weren't just failures, they were punchlines.
What the hell is with that mask?
At the same time, legal issues with Superman meant Warner Brothers needed to get a Superman movie made quickly to retain the rights. The studio was legally obligated to begin production by 2011, or risk losing key elements of the character. Warner Brothers had seen the money Marvel was making and wanted to make their own version of that success, only faster. The plan wasn't to mirror Marvel's slow build. It was to go big immediately, and that's exactly what they did. I'm Josh Tyler for A Giant Freaking Robot, and this is why the Snyderverse failed. Zack Snyder was hired to direct Man of Steel in October 2010, and his selection was driven by a combination of studio urgency, Christopher Nolan's influence, and Snyder's prior success in adapting stylized comic book material with 300 and Watchmen. Zack Snyder's DC Cinematic Universe began with potential. In 2013, Man of Steel rebooted Superman for modern audiences, carrying the weight of not just relaunching a character, but laying the foundation for an entire interconnected universe. Man of Steel was brooding, self-serious, dimly lit, and violent. A sharp departure from Christopher Reeve's hopeful hero. Superman kills Zod. No banishment to the Phantom Zone this time. Buildings collapse and scenes that evoke 9/11 imagery, killing thousands. It was controversial, but it got people talking. The film earned $668 million worldwide on a $225 million budget, and people seemed to really like muscle-bound Henry Cavill as the new Clark Kent. Man of Steel was not a bomb, but also not a huge breakout hit. Instead of following it with Man of Steel 2, Warner Brothers and Snyder decided to leap straight into Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. This was the real beginning of the Snyderverse, an attempt to kickstart the Justice League franchise by packing in as many characters and setups as possible. Released in 2016, Batman v Superman brought Ben Affleck in as an older, grizzled Batman.
Do you bleed?
And introduced Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. On paper, it should have been $1 billion slam dunk. It wasn't. The movie made $873 million worldwide on a roughly $300 million budget, after marketing of course. That sounds like a win until you compare it to Marvel's Civil War, released the same year, and it made $1.15 billion, or The Avengers with $1.5 billion, or Iron Man 3's $1.2 billion. Warner Brothers expected a juggernaut. Instead, they got a slog. Critics hated Batman v Superman. Rotten Tomatoes scores sit at 29%, and many reviews pointed to an incoherent plotting, oppressive tone, and an overstuffed script that spent more time teasing future movies than telling a compelling story. Audiences were split. Snyder had defenders, especially online, but casual moviegoers were exhausted. And with good reason. The film crammed Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Lex Luthor, Doomsday, a dream sequence with Future Flash, Darkseid teases, and a flash drive full of Justice League origin reels into one movie. No one had time to breathe. WB hit the panic button, but instead of slowing down and reassessing the universe's direction, they did the opposite. Suicide Squad was already in post-production, and the studio took that opportunity to step in. David Ayer's dark, grounded crime movie got re-edited by a trailer company and turned into a neon-colored mess. Suicide Squad was released in August of 2016. That film still made $747 million, but the backlash was immediate and loud. Another divisive movie, another critical failure. Then came Justice League. Zack Snyder originally envisioned Justice League as a two-part saga, beginning with the formation of the League and ending with a battle against Darkseid. But before filming concluded, horrific tragedy struck. Snyder's daughter Autumn died by suicide in early 2017. She was only 20 years old. Snyder left the project shortly after. WB brought in Joss Whedon to finish the film. Back then, Joss Whedon, as the mind behind Avengers, was viewed as something of a superhero messiah. People were excited.
Alright.
Whedon rewrote large portions of the script and reshot over half the movie. The tone shifted from mythic to sitcom.
Oh, something is definitely bleeding.
Superman's mustache became a meme, and what was supposed to be DC's Avengers moment turned into a Frankenstein film with two voices, two tones, and no clear direction. Justice League was released in November 2017. It bombed. The final gross was $657 million worldwide, less than Man of Steel with a similar budget. It lost an estimated $60 million for Warner Brothers. Even worse, the behind-the-scenes turmoil became public. Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg, alleged misconduct by Whedon and accused studio executives of covering it up. Warner Brothers launched an internal investigation, but the public narrative was already set. It destroyed the career of Joss Whedon, who was now persona non grata in Hollywood. The Snyderverse was falling apart. After that, everything unraveled. Ben Affleck stepped away from playing Batman and from directing his planned solo film. Henry Cavill's Superman went into limbo. Warner Brothers began canceling or retooling projects like Flash, Cyborg, and Green Lantern Corps. Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman spin-off stayed separate in tone, and it was a hit in 2017, earning $822 million and widespread acclaim.
Thank you.
But it was the exception, not the rule. Wonder Woman 2 would not do well. WB might have pulled the plug on the Snyderverse sooner. But in between failures, they kept finding just barely enough success to try again. So, in 2020, 3 years after Justice League's release, the hashtag Release the Snyder Cut campaign finally broke through. Fans, bolstered by leaks and cast support, pushed hard, looking to drive subscriptions for HBO Max, gave Snyder $70 million to finish his version. Zack Snyder's Justice League premiered in March 2021. At 4 hours long, it restored character arcs, reinstated cut villains, and ended with a massive tease of what was to come. Critically, it fared far better than the theatrical version, 72% on Rotten Tomatoes, and drew strong engagement online. But there were caveats. The Snyder Cut wasn't released theatrically. Its viewership numbers were opaque, and most importantly, it was too late. WB had already greenlit Matt Reeves' rebooted The Batman with Robert Pattinson. The Flash was in production with a reset built into the plot. The new studio heads at Warner Brothers Discovery made it clear the Snyderverse was over. Despite the Snyder Cut's success with fans, it didn't translate into a revived franchise or a crossover to interest anyone outside what some were now beginning to view as a full-on Zack Snyder cult. There were no sequels, no restored roadmap, no continuation of Snyder's teased apocalypse world with evil Superman and ragtag resistance fighters. And outside those Snyder cultists, it's hard to believe anyone would have enjoyed that anyway. We want Batman, not Mad Max. WB shifted toward a multiverse strategy, greenlighting unrelated projects like Joker, The Batman, and Blue Beetle. Eventually, James Gunn and Peter Safran were brought in to reboot the entire DC universe from scratch, starting with Superman released in 2025. And Gunn's Superman is a hit, out-earning Snyder's attempts. Looking back now, it's clear the Snyderverse failed not because of one bad movie, but because of misaligned goals, rushed execution, and constant studio interference. Snyder had a coherent vision, but it wasn't universally accessible. He treated his heroes like gods, not people. The world was always ending. The sun rarely shone, and for casual fans, and even a lot of hardcore ones, it was just all too much. Meanwhile, Warner Brothers kept trying to pivot mid-stride, reshuffling, recutting, and rebooting without giving any one direction time to succeed. The Snyderverse's legacy is as a cautionary tale about what happens when a studio chases someone else's success without understanding why they succeeded in the first place.
I understood that reference.
Zack Snyder has moved on from the Snyderverse now. He tried making a Battle Beyond the Stars knockoff for Netflix called Rebel Moon. That was probably Snyder's last chance. Rebel Moon flopped. And Zack is unlikely to be trusted with another big Hollywood budget for anything, let alone a superhero film. Snyder fans may never give up, but the Snyderverse is over, and in the end, likely to be forgotten as it's overshadowed by future successes. Still think Zack Snyder's a genius? Good luck in the comments. For everyone else, become our hero by liking and sharing this video. And if you want us to keep creating content for humans by humans, consider becoming a producer. It's the best way to fight back against the AI slop onslaught. This has been Josh Tyler for Giant Freakin' Robot.